Well, thank you very much for conducting this interview, to give me an opportunity to discuss some of the issues about migration in the European Union. So, as you pointed out, I will be delivering a keynote speech this morning, and basically I would like to focus on three aspects. First of all, I would like to go back to what was termed a refugee crisis in Europe, just to come back to facts and figures, and also look at the response by the European Union and some of the problems that were faced. Then I would like to look at the response of the international community, because as you probably know, this week in New York there were two very high-level events. One was a UN high-level meeting on the 19th of September, followed by a leaders' summit that was convened by President Obama. And the third aspect that I want to deal with is actually the issue of refugees in Korea, looking at the treatment of North Korean defectors, but also in comparison to refugees coming from other parts of the world. So, in a nutshell, this is what I want to put in my keynote speech. So I think the European Union is indeed an attractive destination for migrants, be they political or economic migrants. We've seen, for example, that migrants from the great Middle East are not attracted to countries like the Gulf countries, leading us to wonder why. And clearly, I think the attraction of the European Union is dual. First of all, there is quite clearly the opportunities, social and economic opportunities that the European Union can offer to those migrants. But we also believe that it is because the European Union is founded on values that it is attractive to those migrants who don't necessarily, in some cases, want to leave regimes that are very authoritarian in order to live under equally authoritarian regimes, and also not be granted the same rights as citizens. So I believe that the European Union is attractive for those reasons. However, as you've pointed out, what we've seen recently during the peak of migration, in particular in the year 2015, was a kind of backlash from populations in place in the European Union and also by some of the governments. Actually, I think multiculturalism is a very difficult concept to approach, and I think it probably means different things to different people. Having said that, I think the European Union is essentially a multicultural project, because we have, as you probably know, 28 member states with many different languages, with also some of them practicing different religions or not. So as I said, I think the European Union is essentially a multicultural project. It is also based on common values, and I think this is basically the cement of the European Union. And such values are, for example, respect for human rights and the rule of law and democracy. So this is something that will actually remain. And where we're talking about crisis of multiculturalism, I think sometimes we get a little mixed up between maybe a social and political crisis, rather than the failure of multiculturalism as a policy to integrate migrants. So I don't think that multiculturalism has failed as such, because it is a part of the genetic code of the European Union, but clearly more has to be done to promote the integration of newly arrived migrants. Well, it's always very difficult to predict the future. I think, having said that, we can safely say that the peak of immigration that the European Union faced in 2015 is probably behind us. But having said that, immigration to the European Union will not stop. Largely because the root causes of migration from countries as distant as sub-Saharan Africa will remain, and also because the European Union, because of its demographic problem, will continue to need migrant workers. So I can, if I would venture to predict what is going to happen in 2017, I would say that migration will continue. But I also believe that the European Union has given itself the means to address, such issues by hopefully promoting more regular migration, being able to deal in a more orderly fashion with the issue of refugees and asylum seekers. And already some measures have been adopted. But I also believe that taking this issue to a different level and asking the international community to also react and act upon those very big migration flows, which are affecting actually not just Europe, but the rest of the world, and in particular Africa and Asia. So I hope that what is being decided this week in New York will also be helpful in helping the European Union to face those challenges. Thank you.